circle. Kadon, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Kadon is my good friend, my beautiful, beautiful friend, who is basically this shining light in the world for children and families. Because I'm sure we all know somebody who doesn't like going to school. I'm sure we've all experienced it ourselves. Like, you know, some people either love school or some people hate it. And I would suggest that a lot of people do not like it or don't like certain aspects. But there's some children who are just terribly let down by the education system. It just doesn't suit everybody. And Kadon is a shining light to children and families in the role that she does. So Kadon, please tell me a little bit about what you do.
Hi. Just want to say this is the first live I've ever done. So should I say thank you, Joe, for that?
Yes, you should.
For
You can
champing
thank
me
me
into
later.
this. Yeah, champing me into this space. What I do is I do run a business and have run a practice full time for 4 years, being an educational advocate and a neurodiverse specialist academic tutor. All of that is a mouthful, but basically what it means is I support students and their families and the schools as well to help children, not just neurodiverse, but all children that I work with, be as successful as they can and function in a very broken formal education system, not just in New Zealand, but worldwide. Yes, some countries are doing it better, but even then, it's really challenging for education to have. It just hasn't moved with the times, so it makes it really difficult for the students, current students, or even students in the last that have been around for in school for the last 20 years, to feel good around education, learning, and the impact that it has on them, on their mental health and their general overall well-being. And what I do is I go in and I go, okay, this isn't working for you. Let me see what we can do to tick some boxes to help them be able to function as best they can in the system.
And you know what I love? I love the fact that you see all children as individuals. They're not lumped together as statistics or they should be doing this or milestones or anything. You just meet the child and the parents where they are at. There is no judgment. There's just this big open heart. And I know for me, you know, you've helped my son. He's on the neurodiverse scale and he struggled through school his entire life, you know, and I asked for help over and over again. And he was my fourth child. So I was really fortunate because by then I was a dab hand at this stuff. And what didn't really worry me that the academic system wasn't set up for him because I just trusted. But you see children and their families are exactly where they are and who they are with an open heart. And I think that's a really beautiful thing because I don't think they've ever really been seen like that before. Do you agree?
I do agree. And I think what's happened is at a very young age, for some children, not all children, but particular children who, whether they're diagnosed or not, when a parent has it in their gut feeling like, oh my gosh, something's not quite working at school, but it hasn't manifested into like an obvious what's not working. But for the child, they've been experienced not working for a really long time before it comes out and is seen as, oh, what's going on here by the system. And even parents, even yourself, even 4 children, 3 children and your fourth child, you probably thought, I trust this system because they're the experts. They've been around for hundreds of years and they should know what they're doing. And the reality is, you might get one teacher out of, all the years, 2 teachers out of all the years. And so I think what happens for children is they lose faith and trust in the human beings that represent this system. And what I do, I think, is because I'm a teacher by profession. I've been teaching on and off for, not quite 30 years, but nearly, which is crazy, is that they go, oh, she's actually in education. She's actually a teacher. And so they have this weird feeling of, oh, I don't really trust you. But then they do, because I do create a space for them to go, just be who you are so I can figure out what we need to do.
Yeah. And I think trust is such a massive word because I think we've got to remember, we are our children are our next generation. They're the generation that soon will be, running the country and doing things and being in areas of responsibility. And if we're teaching our children at such a young age not to trust, that's something that they carry them with them in their subconscious for a long time. And that's their operating platform. And I look around, I know you've done a lot of work on yourself, Kate, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But when we lack in trust, we lack in safety and security. And as you say, if we can't trust the education, for a long time, I did trust the education system. That was a long time ago. I've had my eyes opened. And I think most people go into institutions, systems with heart. I do believe a lot of teachers go into the education system with a heart to try and educate in a beautiful way. But unfortunately, they don't have the realm to do that. But when we take trust away from our young, we're putting them on that trajectory for the rest of their life. So being able to instill that trust back into a young person is such a beautiful gift that you do. So I just would like to honor that, because it's massive, it's monumental, it's huge. But I don't think, well, sorry, I was going to just ask one question, because you have done, you were born in America to a mother who is Korean, who speaks little English. So there's a language barrier there. I know you would have understood more as a little girl. And then you were born to a father who was an alcoholic. So you obviously went through a lot of years of childhood trauma, but still loved learning in the education system and so desperately wanted to be a teacher. That was your vocation in your heart. But do you think your life experiences, your healing journey that you've been on to get through your trauma and really understand who you are, do you think that makes you more of a shining light doing the work that you do?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because one of the things, and now listen, I just want to reiterate, like, the system is what it is, education system. Yes, it's broken and everyone knows it, but it is what we have and it is what we have to work with. And everyone tries to do the best they can. So I support the schools for, at least having something. Even if it's broken, it is something. And I think there are many, many amazing teachers and many amazing educational leaders out there trying to shift things. At the moment, I'm doing it one by one. And so I just want to say that. So I don't want anyone to listen into this and going, oh my gosh, they hate schools. They don't think institutions and da da da. Where it's absolutely not that. Because what I'm trying to do is help them work, find out how to shine their light, how to function in this system, so that they can be successful, they can feel better. Let's go back to your question of, was my childhood traumas, did that help me become who I am and do what I do well? Absolutely. Because one of the things I do is, and you've heard me say this many times, is I see children as humans. I don't see them as children, because they're not something because they're children. I see them as a whole human being, which is very different sometimes, because we're just parents and we think they're children, so they don't have the full experience of being human. Yes, they do. They just don't have the understanding, vocabulary, or what have you, to come forward and be treated like total human beings. And so that's one of my sayings, is like, I see all children as human beings. I don't see them as children. My experience from my childhood was, I was the youngest of three, grew up in a very dysfunctional family. Alcoholism we were like the epitome of what alcoholism looks like. Lots of violence, fighting, upsetting homes, moving, splitting up, all those things. And how did that impact me to step into my genius? Because I was never seen or heard as a child. Why it's so easy for me to see and hear children, to create space to be seen and heard exactly where they are, helping parents to see their children exactly where they are, accepting them where they are. And this is working with every parent that I've ever worked with. Amazing, brilliant parents who just think, oh my gosh, what am I missing? What's not right? Because they want to support them, they want to help them, and they want to see their child, but they have their own experiences. And so I come in as a neutral party, and the educational advocacy role that I've kind of created and developed from nothing, because I don't know anyone else that does it, is to advocate for the child, to advocate for that little human that younger human being, meaning not just at school, but at home, helping parents see their children and meeting them where they're at. Not where they should be, not where they can be, not where they were, but where they're at. And it's not like a one size fits all. It is literally, you know, unique for every child. And yes, some things are repetitive for me, you know, like my approaches and the way I handle things, but definitely my trauma growing up, and I chose school, libraries as my safe place
Mm-hmm.
from my home. Makes sense, doesn't it, now that I see children
Mm.
where they're at and helping them be seen in the system that helped save me and
Mm.
gave me some place of safety.
Yeah.
And, so that is, yeah, absolutely.
I was so emotional then because, like you use these words like, you were not seen, you were not heard. And that is just our basic human need. As humans, we are here to be seen, heard, and cherished. And I think the work you do is remarkable because, as you say, I think parents, we are in a system where we're supposed to meet milestones, where we're supposed to sit our SATs or our exams or whichever exam system you have. And if you don't pass, then there's an issue. And, I deal with a lot of teenagers and young women, and their stories are so similar. And whether they're neurodiverse or not, they've just been overlooked. Their emotions, their feelings, and who as they are as these amazing, unique individuals has been overlooked because we're
Mm,
trying to lump people into categories within a system. And honestly, as you were talking then, I was just like so emotional about being seen, heard, and
mm,
cherished. And because it's what we all need. And as you said, you were this little girl who yourself needed that, and now you can give it so readily to others, but
mm.
because you give it to yourself as well first, don't you?
Mm, I've been going to some form of therapy of some kind, seeking outside professional help or experts or, since I was 14.
Mm.
Now, like I went to my school guidance counselor in America at 14. So I was in year 10, year 11, you know, and I did that because I had a big fight with my mom in the morning and she said something really terrible to me. Like, I wouldn't say that I should have never been born. And it's like, wow. Do you know what I was thinking when you were speaking, Joe, about being seen and heard? We are born into this world thinking we are the most important thing. We have no conditions. We just think we're amazing.
Mm.
We think everyone sees us. We're allowed to do anything and be anything because we can be seen and heard. And
Mhm.
then we grow up just little by little. And even in amazing, beautiful homes, even with amazing, beautiful parents who are, conscious, even with conscious parenting, we as parents have our own history that
Mhm.
comes into play. And so, I do the work I do. I do coach the parents a bit as well so that they can see it from the child's experience. So the child can be seen and heard like as they were when they're babies with no conditioning,
Mm.
you know. And so yeah, no, and I find my work, I think I love it. Obviously, it gives me heaps of energy and pride. And I love the growth not just from the child, but also within the family relationships, not just between the child and the parent, but even within the siblings, and it doesn't take long. And that's the amazing thing. It doesn't take long,
Mhm.
just little bits. And just that little bit changes the whole nervous system, changes the whole perspective and trajectory of their future.
Mhm. Yeah, I know. And you are literally like an angel walking into families' lives. And I know that. And I know I met some of the families that you've worked with, and it's incredible. And I've seen the children, I've watched the children going from balls of like nervous wrecks to being literally
Mm.
very, very against anything to them being really open and actually enjoying learning. And isn't that one of the biggest gifts we can give anyone?
Oh,
Because that's what really the education system should all be about, helping individuals enjoy learning, because learning is a forever skill. And if we can learn,
Mm.
we can choose how we learn. We can learn in our own unique ways, whether it's, visual or auditory or whatever. But having the love of learning is such a beautiful thing to instill in children. So
It is, but talking about when we're growing up, it's like that's really difficult to love anything when you don't really love yourself and you're not being seen and heard. It's
mm,
like, wow. So creating that safety, creating that trust means that you've taken down a lot of nervous system barriers so that they can learn. And then they go, oh, is this what it's supposed to be like? Is this what my experience is supposed to be like? The educational advocacy role is my difference between just tutoring and just academic tutoring. Because when I do the advocacy role, I'm teaching the kids also to advocate for themselves. They learn by working with me, communicating with their teachers, which no high school student or intermediate student wants to communicate directly with their teachers
yeah.
because they don't want to be singled out. And what they realize just by sending an email, by developing these very gentle skills that don't require a lot of risk, then they start going, oh, actually, that was an actually safe response from them. It's not as bad. Then they start sending emails, then they start asking questions, they start developing relationships with their teachers. Now, that's the one thing that's been lost, and which is something that I think, which I try to help create, and I can see it in a lot of my high school students, is during COVID and after COVID, a lot of teaching has stopped being relational because everything can be online. And that connection is so critical for just well-being and mental health, but particularly for teenagers, because you already feel disconnected in your body because all those changes are happening.
Yeah.
And then you don't have that connection. Then you're not having connection at home, and you're not. So the advocacy bit for them and creating connection brings back a relational part of learning, even if it's in a small incremental ways, even if it's only via email or online like that, but it's a relationship they've created with that teacher, which before they didn't have. And it's been massive, the power that some of these teenagers have taken back in their learning. What do I want to learn? What I want to do? Where before they weren't even going to school. They couldn't get to school, And so it's been crazy, I think, some of the growth and change that's happened over the years with my students.
I love it.
You
Well, we
know?
are here for love and connection. So if you can help mend that bond of connection with everybody within their family and then inject the love in their family and then they have the connection with school, I mean, it's just opened up so much for these young people. So Kadon, I applaud you. I honor you. Thank you for bringing your feminine goddess energy to the world and to the families and to everybody who you encounter, to be fair. And I know you've got such exciting things coming up from your business because, as you say, you're currently just working one-on-one with families. So you can only work with a hand, like 2 handfuls of families at any one go because we've only got so many hours in a week. So I'm so excited to see where your business is going, and you're going to be going bigger and doing bigger group programs. So
Yes,
I'm so
absolutely. I'm
excited.
really excited. It's coming up. I think it's going to be happening at the beginning of spring. First of spring, I think, is a good time for births. So yeah, so watch this space.
So
And
how can people get
thank
in
you.
touch with you? How would be the best thing to get in touch with you now if parents
Well,
are struggling or want to
if
talk?
parents are struggling and they just want some direction or just want to have a chat, if you just want to have a chat because you're lost, you're frustrated, you see the pain your child's going through, you're at your wit's end, or you're just like, I want an improvement in their attitude, I want an improvement in their engagement at school, or anything like that, you can message me on Messenger if you want, although it's under Kadon Campbell, Kadon, but maybe Joe will put a link
Yeah.
or my details. She'll put my email address down there as well, which is kadonedadvocate@gmail.com. Or, can I say my phone number?
No, let's not do that now, but I'll put your email on the link. That's no problem. But yeah, no, and we're looking forward
Yeah,
to your big, beautiful website coming out and the things that you've got in the future. So thank you for joining me today on your first live. You did amazing. You're an amazing speaker. So I cannot wait to be part of your things on stage. I'm coming to be the MC for you, just so you know, because I need to be part of it.
absolutely you are.
And
Absolutely you are.
thank you for being a goddess. Thank you for being everything in the world. I love you dearly. You're amazing. And I will see you
Thank you so
soon.
much. I
Yeah.
will. Thank you so much for creating the space for me to be a bit braver in the digital world. And I really, really appreciate all the patience you've had after all the years of asking me. I finally did it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity at the absolute perfect time. And honestly, if there's any parents out there, even if you have a question or concern, um, about your neurodiverse child or your average child, just reach out, have a 15-minute chat with me, or half an hour, because it's never 15 minutes. You know, if nothing else, sometimes for parents, for them to be seen and heard for their child is often just to say, oh my God, I'm not crazy,
Mm.
is really, really helpful as well. So yeah, I look forward to seeing this replay, and hopefully anyone out there that wants to reach out, reaches out. It always happens in perfect timing. And have a beautiful day, Joe. Thank you.
See you soon.
Lots of love. See you
Lots of love.
soon.